Auj billahi mina shaitani rajim, bismillah rahmani rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my Muslim brothers of Sierra Leone, brothers and sisters of Sierra Leone and other parts of the world. Mina una usual presenter na the Ahmadiyya radio station, FM 91.7, where we transmit from the mission headquarters na 15 Bat Street, Freetown, Sierra Leone. And Mina Mr. Yusuf Kome of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community of the Republic of Sierra Leone and Guinea. Today at the present owner a topic where na ways to one world, which immortal mange for do follow we all accept we self as one people in this world, where na one of we very high personalities them na the Ahmadiyya Muslim community we I go like for tell una small about, so una go know say na such an important man way anything we they tell we in form of advice na tin way we forsake we na the late Sir Muhammad Zarfullah Khan, we born in the year 1893 and we die in the year 1985. In be a companion of the promised Messiah and holy founder of Jamaat Ahmadiyya, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam, very eminent scholar of the Ahmadiyya Muslim committee. He graduate from Government College na Lahore in the year 1911. He go study law na King's College na London, and eventually then call him to the bar at Lincoln's Inn. Also at the request of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, he been able to represent the Muslim League in July 1947 before the Radcliffe Boundary Commission. Then in December 1947, he represent Pakistan at the United Nations General Assembly as the head of the Pakistani delegation. And Naimi advocates the stand of the Muslim world on the Palestine issue. Also, then be appointed him as the first foreign minister of Pakistan in the year 1947, and he worked at this post until 1954. From 1962 to 1963, he had been president of the United Nations General Assembly, and then in 1970, then elected him president of the International Court of Justice, that now in The Hague, and he worked at this post until 1973. Now being a prolific author where he writes so many books, and the greatest honor now where he translates the Holy Qur'an into English language. Equally so, now being a very brilliant orator where when he explain about God and religion or anything to you, if you na man we no get sense you will understand. One of his very remarkable achievements na say in a roundtable conference of Muslims them, he be able for even corner Churchill, and Churchill, who we know has been one-time Prime Minister of Britain, he been get for accept Sir Zarfullah in viewpoints them in that roundtable conference of Muslims. So the ways to one world, that is how mortal man get for do for able for make we accept we self as one people in this world, where at the present one so na in very popular speech where he deliver na Cornell University on May the 2nd, 1974. This na the man where I translate in speech about what immortal man get for do for able for realize one world for we take we self as one people and where they inside this world. No nation, no big person company, no mortal man, no big person company. We all love we self, we all think equally of we self, and we all cooperate in justice, truth, and sincerity, so that we able for realize the paradise on this very earth before we die, and hope say once we don't realize in this world, then inshallah God will also grant we the everlasting paradise na the world of eternity. Amen. I hope say brothers and sisters taking into consideration the profile of this high personality, una go listen attentively and una go find in fact this message of the ways to one world very educative and very useful. May God bless we all. Amen. A start is say in things say na been very big honor and privilege with Giam for when they invite them for can address this distinguished gathering this event so on this topic when are the ways to one world. He say and he very grateful to the interreligious and international ministry at Cornell and the Temple of Understanding, Washington DC for this invitation here so. He say we all know glad he say because of some sick we good party. His Excellency Dr. Yu Tant we na him for can this meeting here so for can address una and for give we the blessing of in great knowledge able for there so which we today because of the sick way sick. He say we know say a man we get experience and a man we get wisdom too much, so we feel in absence amongst we this evening. He say we all pray for his speedy restoration to health and strength. He say he deeply conscious of his own shortcoming. Say he put himself down, he not worthy for tinap before them people and they when are just a kind of way for sure saying I been very spiritual man where although I been high intellectual and I been high dignitary, still he put himself down. So he say he deeply conscious of in shortcoming as a very poor and inadequate substitute to this wonderful man way because of sick he not able for can share in knowledge and wisdom with we this evening. He say, and I rely on una generosity for overlook all them shortcomings there so and accept whatever I get for present to una in this speech where they deliver. He say, on a pure geographical sense, firstly, we all become one world. He say, the means and speed of communication, then they multiply greatly. He say, and then they accelerate at a very fascinating rate. He say, and the problems them to which this phenomenon of this accelerated means of communications them then don't give rise to. He said, then all and the clamor for a speedy solution. He said, and if we deny or if we delay, then demands then so with these new phenomena and then they ask for, then things say a good day to a advantage. He said the search for the different solutions of the various problems socio-political, economic will get in this world so we get for seek them through sympathy, understanding and persuasion. He said this now all the levels and all the time. He said for true, then three things I also where I don't talk about sympathy, understanding, and persuasion. We need them in every sphere and sector of social, communal, national, international, global, and universal matters. He said, and this need here, so in fact, the intelligence of mortal man don't realize, say, that the only thing we need, and we need them very bad, before the end of the first quarter of this very century here, so that na the century we come at the end of the Second World War, we even they talk about that time day. He said that the same feeling I inspire the creation of the United Nations organization, and I make them also set up the organization and in specialized agencies them. He said they don't achieve beaucoup through this organization and in specialized agencies them, and also out of them other things they also don't be achieved. He said but a vast deal more remain for achieve where they're not able for do it. He said and much of the things the way they left for do, they need for do them very urgently. He said and with very great speed and on a very extensive scale. Jokingly, he said that the United Nations then talk say too much great emphasis there on nation but little on united. He said, but the answer to this joke na say nation then get for day before the nation then they then for unite. He said we for appreciate say this organization it don't stimulate and it don't accelerate the process by which people then they become masters inside their own homes them, so that they go able for unite and work together for their own common good. He said this process don't almost complete and consequently also the organization don't arrive at a threshold of universality. He says similarly so you still get a few hard apparently unyielding obstructions them where then still get for overcome. He said but the current is too strong way is set towards in fact the direction of human freedom and dignity of man. He said and because of this then get for make sure say a prolonged resistance to the dignity and freedom of man it not happen because the consequences then will be very dangerous. He said we hope say resistance could be overcome in a very reasonable manner. He say and it will happen very early because mortal man then like how he say forget a very deepening understanding so that no further human suffering will become evident. He say once this process don't be completed then we arrive much closer to the vision of the kind of one world where we all desire for seeing operation we could just be a reflection of paradise on earth. He said at the political section the United Nations it don't evolve a third group of non-aligned states them we don't help for diffuse some of the tension them, we result from the polarization of the world into which the great power them don't drift soon after the setting up of the United Nations organization. He said this group still they insist on the rapid elimination of hunger, disease, ignorance from every part of the world and for raise the average standard of living to a reasonable standard throughout the world. He said their objectives are so now we don't universally agree upon all of them. He said the differences and we still persist not just in relationship to the method for use and the pace for use forget the realization of all the good goals they are so. He said what would they talk about one world when at the type of world where we all get now we mind say we want see amongst mortal man them. He said the kind of world we could be worth striving for. He said for true not to a world of hunger, disease and ignorance. He say and also I hope say it not go be a world of alcoholics that na people the way they drink and drunk, or the one the way they don't become drug addicts them, or the one the way they don't become chronic gamblers them and people away then they in all kinds of perversion. He said this not to the dream world where we try for work for realize. He say on the contrary, we work for realize a world of gentleness and compassion, of sharing and cooperation, of sobriety and good behavior, of justice and mercy, of equality and non-discrimination, of peace and orderliness, of cheer and goodwill, and of progress and prosperity. He say for true, the only way we'll be able to achieve this kind of world, when a paradise kind of world, not only by accepting the ways of Almighty God. He say we for put forward the necessary effort and we striving them, the efforts then will make them for be very, very sincere. He say we for be patient, persistent, and also successful. He say and through God in grace no more, now we're able for realize all the good intentions there so where we get. He say hunger, disease, and ignorance today na very big problem na the world. He say a tithe of the effort, energy, and resources then way people then don't put towards the manufacture of weapons, then way na very destructive weapons them. He say if we employ them funds then they will use for create then destructive weapons there so at the service of man, it go eliminate hunger, preventable or curable disease, and ignorance. They say what we need now na forget a very deep sense of accountability to God for all in blessings them way it don't give we, and for see how we they use them, whether we they use them beneficiary for mortal man or they use them in a very destructive manner. He say every good knowledge what we get na divine bounty when a blessing where God give we. He say and in law regarding them blessing then they na say if we look na chapter 14 of the Holy Quran verse 8, Almighty Allah talk say
لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَئِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ.
If una use me bounties, then that na me blessings them beneficiary and beneficently, I go surely multiply them more for una. But if una misuse them, me punishment ihato. He say yaso na chapter 14 verse 8, a clear warning say, if we misuse the blessing the way God dey give we, then God go transform them blessings there so into instruments of ruin and misfortune for we because we don't misuse them. He said that one they not to hide because before we get clear illustration. He says so we for listen to them and we for try for make use of the obvious lesson from all them good advice there so where Almighty Allah dey give we from the Holy Quran of how mortal man them for live together. He say apart from the person when they call malthus and in way of thinking and the due allowance way he make for the population explosion and total food production today, he say we tell God thank you for the application of scientific and mechanical methods where we don't put upon agriculture. He says still they not fall short of requirements. We see say famine it is strike the world from time to time in different parts them. He say and this the results to failure of harvest. He say but all if we look inside there we able forget easy remedy if mortal man then come together and work together for find solution to all them problems there so they affect humanity as a whole. He say not only coming together but we able for foresee, for able for dictate and solve the problem before even it happen. He said the only thing we need is a greater willingness for help and more sympathy for human suffering and more imagination and or if possible avoided. He say moderation in everything na a wholesome rule. He say apart from the golden rule of moderation, good behavior also na another very good rule. He say one wise Dutch proverb they way say enough is enough but much is too much. He say prevention of disease and cure of disease it presents slightly a more complicated problem. He say but yaso back me heart in fact it don't sweet because we see in fact the astounding success of combined experimental programs of educational and medical assistance in 4 countries them of West Africa where the Ahmadiyya Muslim community launched 3 years ago. He say and at a very modest scale I feel say even in the problem of the cure of disease and health, mortal man still don't begin to make some good efforts. He said this don't demonstrate how much we go able for achieve, no matter how little we get, if only the effort it be inspired by the sole motive of winning the pleasure of God through devoted and selfless services of the creatures of God. He said one striking feature of this program na in purely voluntary character entirely divorced from any official or governmental strings. He said the success with this program don't achieve so far, it encourage the hope say and go both in fact extend them and intensify them in the immediate future. so that it will serve as a model instrument in the fight against disease and ignorance in areas where the need is most urgent and in fact intense. They say with the advancement of one world, human intercourse if will become smoother and easier. They say artificial barriers them will pull them completely, or we for even make them lower if the worst come to the worst. They say as far as and wherever possible for do that. They say tidiness pan all thing will be very appreciated. They say and for cultivate tidiness na something we will for encourage amongst all mortal man them. Say formality and ceremonial manners we for reduce them to minimum any side way it will tend for cause an obstruction in the activities of people, or in your own word, the meeting of man to man. Say I remember one occasion many years ago where they invite me to a dinner where na be a group where they called World Brotherhood na Washington DC na they may organize that dinner day. They say that time they mean I been vice president of that organization day. So they may expect me for give a speech during that dinner day, especially for support the objectives of that organization day. He said that the invitation card them put and say the dress will for dress will for use black tie. He said instead I go that meeting day with long clothes. That not something like a gown. I not wear black tie at all. He said then when me turn come for a talk na the meeting. Now I talk say the cause of the World Brotherhood we not go promote them until we understand say man and man, no matter the color of clothes we wear or the kind of clothes we wear, they all two for able for sit down for eat na dinner, and that's not for bring any division. He said that his speech day is so penetrates the heart, all man really see say then guilty because we you begin impose say all man with the kind of meeting day, if we wear black tie, then you know the walk towards creating one world, and even the very name of World Brotherhood, when I've been the organization in name, you they work against that name day because you they try for create a kind of fashion discrimination where anybody will not get black tie, you not go find them say enough fit for day in that group day. He say from that day nobody not talk about black tie for we other meetings them again. He say Bokupan we easily we can just they assume quick one say the more we mortal man they approach to the concept of one world, the more the rest of the world go adopt the pattern them and assume the trappings them to which we self we don't become accustomed, and the world at large it go take on ways them we then go conform to the desire of we heart. Say but we for persuade we self say no matter what in the diversity of we tongue, we color, we creed, we race, we dress or manner might be, the true it remains say despite all them diversity there so man na still mortal man no more. And at that now for respect say we all na human beings. And we for know say with determination na for eliminate hunger, disease and ignorance na this world and make the life for all mortal man equal and better. He say today we get boku means for able for solve all them problems there so. He say what we need now na the will and the resolve. He say once we get this it not go difficult for we overcome all them bad things there so. Say because we know say na the lack of availability of funds na in the create all them bad things there so we mortal man they suffer from. He say but we need a different approach for eliminate the evils them way affluence it don't give birth to. He say we will able if we choose for able. He say if we bury we head pan sansan, it will be vain effort for ignore them realities there so we if we try for put we hearts together as one and think say we all we equal, we will able for solve easily. He say so what we need for do now for summon courage enough and acknowledge the fact say we able for overcome all them obstacles there so and make life better for we compy mortal man them. He says so we for try for face them and we for reach out for seek a remedy, and that remedy they will for apply them for get a solution we will help mortal man as a whole. He said nevertheless we for in fact acknowledge say all the efforts we don't invest so far in that regards they in fact are not very encouraging. We still get small hatred and small malice way it prevent we for able for wholeheartedly realize them golden objectives and they will make life better for all man of the world. He said the discipline where I get the honor for belong to when Islam, it teach we say man na a unity of all the body, of the mind and the spirit. And say all them three components there so of body, mind and spirit, then they constantly act and react upon each other. He say if one of them parts there so body, mind and spirit is corrupt, then correspondingly the other parts then will become affected. He say for ensure a complete healthy organism, then we get for take the regulations and we in fact then design for able for achieve that goal and purpose day. He say for example, let we see how it regulate wetin we get for do about we food and we drink and wetin it forbid we for do. He say and anything we go do we harm, he say we for avoid that, we for forbid we not for do harm. Elect safe na pan we food and we drink business, if it go cause harm to we, then we for avoid them. He say even out of wetin they not forbid for we, Now only waiting in fact a pure and wholesome na in no more we for take. For put more force to this, a quote chapter 5 of the Holy Quran verse 89 where Almighty Allah he talk say,
رزقكم الله حلالا طيبا واتقوا الله الذي أنتم به مؤمنون.
Una eat freely of that thing the way God he don't provide for una, but of the lawful things them and the wholesome things them. And una for be mindful of una duty to God where in fact una believe panam. Chapter 5 of the Holy Quran verse 89. He also quote chapter 7 of the Holy Quran verse 32 where Almighty Allah talks say,
يا بني آدم خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين.
Children of Adam, una put una mind and una body in a state of tidiness at every time and at every place of worship, and una eat and drink of waiting lawful and wholesome, but una not become immoderate, because for true e not like the one the way they immoderate. Chapter 7 of the Holy Quran verse 32. Then he quotes the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he say in one occasion the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he talk say, we na people the way we eat no more way we hungry, and if in fact self we stop for it where we still hungry. Now it make we get very little or no need for any physician. He said now medical opinion the world over a unanimous say smoking, and more particularly cigarette smoking, nothing way dangerous for mortal man in health. He said but even so at the threshold of the last quarter of the 20th century, he said where Homo sapien supposed to don't arrive at the pinnacle of insapienis, this bad habit with dangerous for mortal man in health when a cigarette smoking it continue for increase. He said none of we know the assad say we indulge in this bad habit here, so it do the least good to anyone pan we all know say na bad na they do. He said and the ill affects them then testified to both by the one the way then they pursue this bad practice here, so and the one the way they innocent but then a victim, and in fact helpless victims at second hand, because the one that way they smoke where they contaminate the atmosphere, it also they endanger the health of the non-smokers them. He says so this is for augur in fact the ill with regards to the chances of ridding modern society of some of its very grave ills like alcoholism, drug addictions them. He said recently you get an outcry from both sides of the Atlantic over the increase in number of in fact the one them way they affected by the excessive consumption of alcohol and drug. He say as far as alcoholism concerned, we all therefore in fact express with deep appreciation of the good work way in fact the organization we call itself Alcoholics Anonymous then they do in fact for stop this excessive drinking of alcohol. He say but this in fact way Alcoholics Anonymous this group here so they do for stop alcohol, he say then they enough or in fact waiting then they do na the true remedy for stop alcohol in this world. He say may we not forget say every alcoholic it start as a moderate drinker, it begin for drink small before he go to that real Chakman level. He says so every moderate drinker automatically becomes a potential alcoholic. That means say anybody where they drink small automatically you don't can be exposed eventually for become a great drunkard. He say in fact if you pass somebody where in fact you don't begin prepare the road for begin be real Chakman, you pass that. He say you become guilty of the sin of every innocent person where eventually you get for slide down the slope of alcoholism, because you yourself don't demonstrate and people don't see you don't begin drink small eventually you can be big Chakman, so people and they will then go admire you, and then self because of that you bad habits they even when you begin drink small then self then go inside alcohol and eventually then go into all the bad things them associated with alcoholism. He says, so the only solution, just like how you dey begin for drink small small, na so you for try for left the drink small small. And just like how we dey try for begin for drink small small, you dey encourage other people and for begin can small small so then go big. Now so if you try for left small small, people when they see you where you don't turn real Chakman, you dey left small small. Some of them you go in fact encourage them, or then go take your example for left small small so then self then go come on inside there. You see, with all the effort with this group what they call themselves Alcoholics Anonymous than they do, unfortunately they're not able to conduct a census for check if the number of alcoholics then they increase or if then they decrease. He says, so therefore we for acknowledge say the cure of alcoholism not only a partial and precarious alleviation of the disease, and in fact the only effective method for prevent now for totally abstain yourself from consuming alcohol. He said, but what we see in fact a steady and substantial increase in the per capita consumption of alcohol. He says, so the prospect therefore of an early striving elevation of the situation appear very bright. He said the same he applied to drug addiction, especially amongst the young generation them. He said although in this case the emphasis in fact it more on the sector of prevention. Say yet the effort on prevention not catch up yet with in fact the spread of the habit. Say and also in the case of drug, in fact the prospect is bleak. He say gambling na a multifarious form. In fact, they not even look upon them as much of something way a bad, something way na evil. Say in fact, self in some cases, then they consider them for be a social grace. Say and in them places and the participation, then they deem them in fact as an obligation and as a virtue where they bring respect to people and what they do them. They say for example, in the case of lotteries them in aid of beneficent projects them. He say yet the canker within the heart is undeniable. He said the weakness by all them things there so and other similar cases then I say in fact the strong moral sanction way for preventing them things there so is lacking. He say and the pressure of the hard habit in fact it not be easy for in fact withstand. He say with Islam the case is very different. He say we get a very strong moral sanction na Islam. He say but the tendency for ape the West in them matters there so out of desire for gain social credit. He say and for be accounted civilized in the estimation of the one the way then sophisticated to some degree it be restrained by the uncomfortable consciousness of the odium where in fact go be incurred in fact by the eyes of Muslims them. So it means because of the strong moral sanction within Islam, even if Muslims and they drink safe, but in fact they go do and that hypocrite way they because they know their religion not permits them for do them, they not go do them openly na hide no more than go they do them. He say Islam is clear and uncompromising in condemnation of them practice there so. He say because if you look at chapter 5 verse 91, Almighty Allah talks say,
يا أيها الذين آمنوا إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس من عمل الشيطان فاجتنبوه لعلكم تفلحون.
O una we believe, intoxicants, gambling idols, and divining arrows, they na abomination of Satan in devices them way it don't make for full una. So una shun each one of them bad things there so that una go prosper. Holy Quran chapter 5 verse 91. He said the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he don't interpret this verse or of chapter 5 verse 91 say even a little quantity we go intoxicate you and it not go intoxicate you too much. That one they say is forbidden, you know, for use them at all. He said this don't induce so strong an antipathy, in fact, in the minds of the faithful towards the abomination, where some of the mystics them then don't go so far for declare, where then say just the tongue or even you mouth where alcohol it touch them, it go make you mouth not worthy again for talk the glorification and the praise of the Almighty Allah. When the God. That means say if one drop alcohol touch your tongue or your mouth safe, then that mouth day it don't become in fact evil enough fit again for call God in name at all. It's a perversion and promiscuity where in fact within the incite in mortal man na pornography and in fact other bad social problems them. say way so far they don't elude prevention or cure. We mean say mortal man not able for left them bad habits they also again. They say all them way so na part of the pattern the way we they appraise, nothing the way we they support, although na bad way in fact all them one they also na a byproduct of affluence where you they feel say you kind of day you think say you civilize, and this all na part of civilization, although na bad sin in front of you God where you they worship. Say this pattern here, so the one that we feel say then civilized, in fact they don't describe them as permissiveness. They say and this it don't reduce the pejorative implications then panam. He say right here we go try for venture and for state one observation when I say social habit and practice them way in fact if we persist panam then go bound for produce a particular kind of result when are the inevitable or unavoidable consequence of the process, it will require say we for radically alter them and for try for control them if we want to get a very good result in the end. They say if we left the approach open, then of course in fact the consumption or for do them bad things and so it will become inevitable. Mortal man not go able for stop them. He say in fact regulation and control we get for institute them and for bring them into play at the initial stage if we want for let them be effective. As the team begins so we for put the control and regulation into effect one time we begin for stop them before it go too much. He say part of the in fact regulation and control way Islam institutionalize in this direction. He say in fact we can cite them nayaso. He cite chapter 24 of the Holy Quran, verse 31 to 32, where Almighty Allah talks say, "Una direct the man that we believe for restrain and look, and let them guard them senses, that one day it pure for them. Surely God is well aware of all which they do. Una direct the believing woman them for restrain and look, and for guide them senses, and not for disclose any part of them beauty, or their embellishment them, except the one way perforce is apparent of them thing then they. Then for cover then head with then head cover right up to them bosom, and then not for disclose any part of them beauty except to their husband the way married them, or the one the way related to them within they within the prohibited degrees them, or to gentlewoman them, or to the maid servants them, or to picking them where they not get any understanding of the relationship between the sexes them, and they not for strike them foot then are grown in such a way it go disclose then charm we then get, and then no say they not supposed for disclose then charm at all. Una turn to God altogether, O believers them, so that una go prosper. Chapter 24 of the Holy Quran, verse 31 to verse 32. Married na in the normal way Islam accept. Monasticism Islam not accept them. That for say you don't dedicate yourself to God, you in a man or you in a woman, you're not a married, because married is a push mortal man pan sin. Islam not preach that at all. Brothers and sisters, them because of time, once again this transmission it can to una from una very beloved Islamic station FM 91.7 when at the Ahmadiyya radio station, and we transmit from the mission headquarters na number 15 Bad Street, and me now una usual presenter Mr. Yusuf Kome of the Ahmadiyya mission in the Republic of Sierra Leone and Guinea. Because of time we go end this first part of the ways to one world, where we tell una say na we very high late personality sa Zafula Khan na in speech way been deliver, and in the next presentation we will continue with part 2. We hope say una find them very educative and interesting, and we pray say Almighty Allah go grant we the blessings and make them possible for mortal man for able to realize one world where it will be a peaceful world where all mortal man will be equal under the worship and service of the one true God. Amen. I say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all.